The saying, "improve yourself," points to a brighter future and a better version of you. But do many people understand its true depth? How many actually embark on this transformative path? With 2024 just around the corner, it's a perfect moment for a profound awakening. This guide gives you all you need to reinvent yourself in 2024, drawing insights from Stoic thinking and other fascinating philosophers. Think about a life where you're not bothered by what others think, and society's chatter is irrelevant. Our first topic is learning not to worry about these things. This isn't about being bored, it's about being free, focusing on yourself and not what's happening around you. In this kind of life, happiness isn't something you chase. It's always there, waiting to be discovered. But to truly stop caring about outside opinions, you need to start looking within. We're talking about being selfish here. But don't get mad at the term selfish yet. Think about it. Can you truly care for others if you don't care for yourself? We'll show how being a bit selfish and loving yourself is key to a great life. Now that you know yourself better, let's explore a big goal: discovering your own purpose amid life's chaos. Having a clear purpose helps guide you. It's not about searching for meaning, it's about creating it, building a life that reflects you in every way. The final part of our journey focuses on Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that's still very relevant. Discover how Stoics define a good life. It's about being virtuous, wise, and calm, not just rich. In this life, tough times make you stronger, not weaker. As the new year begins, remember that exercising is more about improving your inner self than your appearance. It's finding the hidden treasures within you, reconnecting with your real self, and sharing that positivity with the world. 2024 is almost here, offering a fresh start. The big question isn't if you should change, but if you're ready to be your best self. Don't hesitate to take the leap. Let's embark on this journey together to achieve incredible growth, wisdom, and understanding. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by what society expects from you, or stressed about things beyond your control? You're not alone. Many of us worry about stuff that might not be that important after all. Imagine if there was a method to escape this feeling, a way to go through life more calmly and peacefully. Today, we'll explore a way of thinking that might make your life happier and more satisfying, learning how to not worry about everything. This method isn't about ignoring others. It's about focusing our care on what we can actually change and letting go of what we can't. This video will guide you through the insights of various beliefs and philosophers who've left us valuable tips. We're not just looking at religions for academic reasons. We'll explore Buddhism's peaceful teachings, Stoicism's empowering principles, Soren Kierkegaard's brave existential views, Epicurus's happiness-focused thoughts, Taoism's life-embracing concepts, and existentialism's focus on the individual. We'll also see how these ideas are applied in real life, discussing how they've helped people find more joy, less fear, and a fuller life overall. What does not caring mean in a philosophical way? It's not about being cold or indifferent. It's about letting go of social pressure, fear of the unknown, worries about things out of our control, and concern over others' opinions of us. It's better to concentrate on our actions, reactions, and feelings rather than worry over unchangeable things. This is known as the art of not caring, recognizing our boundaries and focusing on what really deserves our attention. It's all about hard work and passion. It's learning to be comfortable with uncertainty and enjoying the present moment fully. If you've ever felt burdened by the world, wanted to free yourself from worries, or are curious about different ideas on happiness, you're in the right place. We aim to help you learn how to face life's highs and lows with calm, peace, and clarity. Join us as we teach you the Free Yourself method, which is all about mastering the art of not worrying. Now's your chance to start on a philosophical journey to discover more about yourself and how to let go, leading to a happier, more fulfilling life. Before we begin, let's first understand how philosophy is closely linked to happiness. What role does philosophy play in defining and grasping the concept of happiness? Philosophy involves seeking knowledge and wisdom, exploring fundamental questions about existence, reality, knowledge, values, reasoning, and especially happiness, which is our main focus today. Philosophers throughout history, from ancient Greece to modern times, have explored what happiness means and how to achieve it. The primary aim of philosophical exploration has consistently been the pursuit of happiness. At first glance, happiness appears simple and universal, but a deeper look reveals it's complex and highly personal. Our happiness largely depends on our individual experiences, cultural background, and others' expectations. However, when we view happiness from the broader perspective of philosophy, its meaning expands and develops beyond just a specific viewpoint. Let's explore how different thinkers view happiness, starting with the Greeks. Aristotle, a great philosopher, believed happiness was more than just feeling good or brief joy. He introduced eudaimonia, often understood as well-being or a good life. For Aristotle, happiness was about living a life of virtue and wisdom, reaching your fullest potential, and positively impacting the world. It wasn't about chasing pleasure, but about improving your inner self. Meanwhile, Epicurus saw happiness as pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain. However, Epicureanism isn't about excessive selfishness. Epicurus valued simple, natural pleasures like peace, friendship, and intellectual pursuits. Philosophers like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, who lived in the 17th and 18th centuries during the Enlightenment period, followed utilitarianism. They believed that happiness is about making the greatest number of people happy, and this belief was the foundation of their moral and ethical principles. Arthur Schopenhauer, a German philosopher from the 1800s, viewed things differently. He saw life as filled with suffering and believed that happiness meant avoiding pain. Schopenhauer suggested reducing our desires to experience less pain and grief, offering a unique perspective on what happiness means. The 20th century existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus believed that life doesn't have an inherent meaning. They thought it's each person's job to create their own happiness and purpose. They challenged societal norms and valued honesty and personal freedom. We should also consider Eastern philosophies, such as Buddhism. Buddhism teaches that happiness comes from letting go of desires and attachments, leading to inner peace and enlightenment. These different philosophical views show us that happiness doesn't fit a single mold. Our beliefs, choices, and worldviews deeply influence it. People pursue happiness in various ways, whether through virtue, pleasure, freedom, or spiritual growth. We'll explore how shedding some worries aligns with these varied views on happiness while discussing the art of not caring. Our aim today is to find a balanced and thoughtful approach to caring about things that are truly important to us, leading to a joyful and fulfilling life. It's important to remember that philosophy doesn't provide direct answers, but helps us figure out the right questions to ask. As we explore more into learning how to worry less, let's stay open-minded, challenge our current beliefs, and allow these diverse philosophical perspectives to deepen our understanding of happiness. Join us on this exciting journey, drawing wisdom from the profound insights of great philosophers on happiness. Now let's discuss Stoicism, an ancient Greek philosophy that's gained popularity again for its deep wisdom and practical tips for leading a good life. Zeno of Citium founded Stoicism in Athens around the early 3rd century BC, but it's the teachings of later Stoic philosophers like Epicurus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius that have lasted over time and continue to be relevant to us today. Stoicism teaches that being self-controlled, good, and logical is important. It explains that even though we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond. Stoicism advises us to concentrate on things we can change and not worry about things we can't. This helps us learn not to worry too much. From this, we get the Stoic concept of two types of power. Epicurus, once a slave who became a wise man, talked about this idea in his writing. He said that some things are under our control, like our thoughts, wishes and actions, but other things like our body, money and reputation are not under our control. This big difference teaches us to put our effort and feelings into things we can handle and not worry too much about the rest. It doesn't mean we should be lazy or not do our tasks. It means we should focus on what really matters and not get upset over things we can't change. This helps us stay calm and follow the natural flow of the world, which is an important Stoic belief. In his writings, Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman emperor, shows us how to be content with little. He believed that happiness comes from your own thoughts, not from power or fame. He wrote, "A happy life is easy to have. It's all in your mind." He focused on being calm inside rather than getting praise or achievements, showing the Stoic idea of not worrying about things out of our control. Seneca, another big name in Stoicism, also shared this thought. He advised us to not get too upset when things go wrong or too happy when they go right, but to stay calm no matter what happens. He wrote, "Real joy is in enjoying now without worrying about the future, not getting caught up in hopes or fears, but being happy with what you have, which is enough. Anyone who does this needs nothing more." Stoicism teaches us not to stress about constant changes in life, but to focus on being better people, wise and good. It shows us how to be happy with what we have, not worry about others, and be at ease with the world. In Stoicism, not caring doesn't mean not caring at all. It's about knowing where to put your energy for a happy, calm life. Now let's talk about Epicurus, an ancient Greek philosopher. He started Epicureanism, which is often misunderstood. It's not about chasing fun or luxury. It's about a peaceful life with freedom and friends, understanding what true pleasure and desire are. Epicurus believed that happiness is the most important thing and the goal of life. However, he also thought that not every pleasure is good to chase. He talked about two kinds of pleasure: kinetic pleasure, which is when we satisfy a want, and katastomatic pleasure, which is feeling content when we're not in pain or wanting anything. He said the best life is where we can be in this state of calm happiness and enjoy simple joys without always being driven by our wants. Epicurus teaches that ignoring social expectations and material desires is key to not caring too much. Epicurus encouraged living simply, away from Athens's busy life. He believed many desires, like for money, fame or power, come from societal pressures and aren't really necessary. He argued these desires often do more harm than good because they're endless and always leave us wanting more. Epicurus famously said, "To make someone happy, don't give them more things, reduce their desires." Epicurus had some interesting thoughts on fear, especially being scared of dying. He believed that death isn't a big deal to us because when we're gone, death isn't there, and when death is there, we're not. He said we shouldn't fear death since it's just a normal part of life. This helps us live more happily and freely right now. How does this help us? We can be calm and at peace if we understand our desires, know which ones aren't key, and control them. By not worrying about others' opinions or being scared of death, we avoid unnecessary worries and stress. This allows us to experience true happiness and peace. Epicureanism shows us that true happiness isn't about having lots of stuff or being famous. It's about feeling calm and peaceful inside, free from pain and worries. This philosophy tells us to appreciate simple joys like friendship, thinking, and not stressing over others' expectations or fears. It also guides us to not be too concerned about what others think. The Epicurean lifestyle encourages us to reconsider what we really want and value, to forget about what society expects and unnecessary fears, and to find joy in the simple and lasting pleasures of life. Let's keep Epicurus's teachings in mind as we continue our journey. Let's understand the role of pleasure and desire in our lives and stop worrying over things that don't bring us long-term happiness. As we keep exploring how to not care too much, we travel to 1800s Denmark and meet Søren Kierkegaard, often called the father of existentialism. He lived in a time and place very different from the other philosophers we've discussed. Kierkegaard focused on existentialism, which is all about an individual's feelings, freedom, choices, and personal experiences. He believed each person has their own truth and must figure out their own way of living. His writings delve deep into personal struggles with anxiety, despair, and the quest for meaning in life. One of his famous ideas is taking a leap of faith when faced with life's mysteries and uncertainties. Kierkegaard believed that to find meaning in life and overcome depression, one needs to dive into religion with a leap of faith. Although leap of faith is commonly linked to religion, especially in Kierkegaard's writings, its meaning is broader. It's about accepting uncertainty and being brave enough to make decisions even when you're not sure of the outcome. The fear and anxiety we feel daily are often because we don't know what's going to happen next. We get worried about future possibilities and find it hard to choose when the outcome is unclear. But what if we choose to not stress over this uncertainty? What if we bravely face the unknown and make choices with courage and belief? Kierkegaard's saying, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards," is relevant here. It means we can learn from our past, but can't predict or control the future. So, choosing not to worry about what might happen doesn't mean you don't care, but rather that you're freeing yourself from the crippling fear of the unknown, allowing you to live in the present and act on what you think is right. Kierkegaard's idea of a leap of faith helps us let go of worries and fears, leading to more happiness. When we stop overthinking about possible future events, we can pay more attention to the present and act according to our beliefs. This way, we live more truthfully, not always fretting about the future. His psychological philosophy makes us think deeply about our lives, concerns, and freedom. His leap of faith concept teaches us to face life's uncertainties, not by trying to predict or control what's next, but by confidently accepting these unknowns and focusing on our true selves. We should be courageous and worry less about things we can't change, and focus more on living fully and honestly right now. Leaving the bustling streets of 1800s Denmark, we now explore ancient India, where Siddhartha Gautama, also known as Buddha, founded Buddhism. This profound philosophy and path to spiritual enlightenment teaches a unique approach to happiness, pain, letting go, and not stressing over fleeting, temporary things. Buddhism views happiness differently compared to many Western beliefs. It doesn't see happiness as pleasure or getting what we want, but as a deep, lasting sense of well-being and satisfaction that comes from inner peace and understanding. This kind of happiness isn't influenced by external events, and anyone can achieve it through self-awareness, honest actions, and understanding the true nature of life. In Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths are crucial. They tell us about suffering, its causes, how to end it, and the path to do so as taught by Buddha. Suffering comes from tanha, which is a strong craving for something different or more than what we have. We crave these things because we don't understand that everything in reality is always changing. This leads to dissatisfaction and the idea of not having a fixed self, which brings us to the Buddhist concepts of letting go and not clinging to things, key to understanding how to not worry in Buddhism. In Buddhism, being detached doesn't mean you ignore or avoid what happens in life. It's about understanding and accepting that everything changes. Detachment involves letting go of people, objects, events, and even thoughts, knowing they can change or end. Not clinging to these things means being detached. It's about not needing to hold on to them tightly. We can still fully live each moment. With non-attachment, we can feel joy, sadness, and other emotions without them taking over us. We learn to truly care about life, but not be burdened by it. Not caring about things that change or end doesn't mean we don't value them. It means we're learning to connect with them in a healthier way, fully appreciating them while they're here, but not suffering when they're gone. Using this Buddhist way of thinking in your life can bring you a lot of inner peace and joy. It helps you appreciate the beauty of life, like the changing seasons, without getting overwhelmed by desires, dislikes, or daydreams. There's a saying, "You only lose what you cling to." This simple yet deep phrase captures the essence of Buddhist ideas about letting go and not holding on too tightly. It encourages us to release our grip on temporary, confusing things. By doing this, we can avoid a lot of self-caused pain and create space for a deeper and lasting happiness. Buddhist teachings delve into the true nature of reality and our minds, showing us how to let go of worries. By understanding and using the principles of detachment and non-attachment, we can live more peacefully, with clarity and freedom. Let's keep in mind Buddha's insights. Everything changes, and by not clinging to temporary things, we can find lasting inner peace and joy. After all, isn't that what we all seek? Now we travel to late 1800s Germany to meet Friedrich Nietzsche, a highly influential and often debated philosopher. Nietzsche presented a unique perspective on the art of not caring, known for challenging traditional values and promoting a philosophy of embracing life. Nietzsche's philosophy centers on embracing life fully, seeing it as the best aspect of being human. He believed that to affirm life means to accept it in all its complexity, uncertainties and struggles. This involves embracing life with enthusiasm, wonder and creativity, rather than passively or with resignation. Nietzsche's thoughts on society's norms and the art of not caring align with his belief in embracing life fully. He believed that traditional morals and societal rules often prevent people from living truly and authentically. He disagreed with the idea that good and bad are the same for everyone, as set by society. To Nietzsche, not worrying about society's rules and standard morals wasn't about not caring at all. Rather, it was about self-growth, moving past learned behaviors and beliefs to discover your own values. By not caring about others' opinions, we can start to challenge and eventually discard these imposed ideas. This frees us to create our own set of morals and decide what matters to us. This leads to the concept of the Übermensch, or Overman, Nietzsche's vision of an ideal individual who transcends established norms, embracing life's chaos and crafting their own moral framework. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche challenges us with the words, "I teach you the Overman. Man is something that shall be overcome. What have you done to overcome him?" These powerful words urge us to reflect, question and create, pushing us to endure challenges and realize our true potential. As we explore how to care less, what can we learn from Nietzsche's philosophy? It encourages us to think about our relationship with societal norms and traditional values. This leads to the advice to not be restricted by external standards, but rather to create our own values and embrace life as it comes. We should remember Nietzsche's powerful messages in our journey. Let's focus on overcoming our old selves, be bold in defining our own rules, and accept life in all its forms. We've dived deep into the idea of not caring, traveling through various philosophies like Stoicism, Buddhism, and the thoughts of Nietzsche, Sartre, and Camus. Now let's apply this theoretical knowledge practically. How can these philosophical teachings aid us in daily life? What actions can we take? Firstly, we need to figure out what's truly important to us. Consider the Stoic idea about things within our control and things outside of it. Distinguish between what in your life you can control, like your thoughts, feelings, and actions, and what you can't. Concentrate on the things you can influence and learn to let go of those you can't. By doing this, you'll likely feel less stressed and worried, making room for more happiness, freedom, and fulfillment. Secondly, we should learn to be comfortable with uncertainty. Life is full of uncertainties, as Kierkegaard reminded us, and trying to control everything is not just pointless, but can disturb happiness. By accepting doubt and taking a leap of faith, we can overcome the fear and anxiety of the unknown. We'll start to see doubt as an opportunity for personal growth and change. The third step involves dealing with society's expectations. As we've seen from Epicurus, Nietzsche, and existentialist thinkers, social norms can prevent us from being true to ourselves and finding happiness. Reflect on the pressures in your life. Are they aligned with your own values and aspirations, or do they make you feel restricted? Not caring about these societal expectations isn't about neglecting your responsibilities or being indifferent. Rather, it's about reclaiming your freedom to choose your path, set your own standards, and shape your identity. The fourth step is to understand that life can be absurd. Taking inspiration from Camus, we can acknowledge life's inherent absurdity and accept it. Instead of seeking meaning or validation from others, create your own significance. This could be through hobbies, work, relationships, or personal development. Find joy in your unique journey and challenges. These steps can guide us, but following them isn't always simple. It requires patience, bravery, and kindness towards oneself to embark on this lifelong journey. You might face moments of doubt, fear, or confusion. Remember, it's normal to feel these emotions. Don't fight them. Instead, acknowledge them, learn from them, and let them guide you. You might be wondering how to apply these ideas right now. Mindfulness is a great tool for this journey. Being mindful means staying fully in the present and observing each moment without judgment. It helps us notice our feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations without getting overwhelmed by them. Try spending a few minutes each day in quiet, focusing on your breathing and how it feels as you breathe in and out. If your mind wanders, gently guide it back to your breath. This practice can help you learn to accept the present and let go of attachments, key skills for learning how to not care too much. Remember, not caring doesn't mean ignoring or being indifferent. It's about deciding what truly matters, accepting life's uncertainties and absurdities, and discovering your own path regardless of others' expectations. On this journey, we need to be courageous, kind to ourselves, and open to experiencing all aspects of being human, not just aiming for a final destination. As we wrap up our exploration of not caring, let's pause to reflect and prepare for what's next. We've journeyed through time, from the Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome to the existentialists of the 20th century, examining their views on not caring. We've studied the Stoic idea of distinguishing between what we can and can't control, learning that peace and happiness come from focusing our efforts on what's within our control. We delved into Epicurean philosophy, understanding Epicurus's teachings on happiness, desire, and the importance of not worrying about others' opinions. We embraced Kierkegaard's perspective, accepting life's uncertainties and realizing that not stressing over certain outcomes can lead to greater happiness. We also explored Eastern philosophy, learning how Buddhist concepts of detachment and non-attachment can help us release our hold on temporary things, leading to internal peace and joy. Kierkegaard encouraged us to challenge social norms, and through his philosophy of valuing life, showed us the importance of not being bound by these norms. As we strive to better ourselves, existentialists like Sartre and Camus pointed out life's absurdity and urged us to take charge of our lives, explaining that ignoring life's silliness can lead to personal independence. Recently, we discussed applying these deep thoughts to our daily lives. We covered identifying what matters to us, handling confusion, resisting societal pressures, and embracing life's absurd nature. We also explored potential challenges along the way and a simple mindfulness technique to help us become more present, accepting, and detached. Remember, starting to not care is just the beginning of your journey. It's not a destination, but a lifestyle to adopt. This path requires kindness to yourself, patience, and courage. Keep using these philosophical concepts in your life as you keep learning, deciding what's truly important to you, and letting go of what doesn't contribute to your well-being. The most valuable things in life are the lessons we learn, the new ideas we discover, and the people we encounter. So, go ahead and learn to not worry about certain things in your life. Notice the changes it brings, the freedom you feel, and the joy it creates. Remember, learning to not care isn't about becoming indifferent or reckless. It's about being true to yourself, regaining your freedom, and creating your own path. It's finding your true self among society's expectations, life's uncertainties, and the silliness of life at times. Have you ever felt guilty for taking a break, enjoying your favorite food, or spending extra time on self-care? Or maybe you've been called selfish for prioritizing your needs. Now is the time to explore these feelings and dive into the interesting intersection of self-love and what some might label as selfishness. In this video, we're going to deeply explore the ideas of some of the most influential philosophers and psychologists ever. These are people who dared to challenge normal beliefs and offered new insights into how self-love and being selfish impact our lives. Thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche, Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow, Aristotle, Ayn Rand, Jean-Paul Sartre, Buddha, and Erik Erikson have all presented ideas that changed the world. We'll dive into the hidden wisdom in their teachings and apply these lessons to better our own lives. The world often gives us confusing advice about self-love and being selfish. We're taught to be kind and selfless, to always think of others first. But then we're also told it's good to love ourselves and prioritize our own needs. These conflicting messages can leave us feeling confused and guilty, unsure of how to strike the right balance. The ideas we're discussing today can help you in both your personal and professional life. To lead happier and more peaceful lives, it's important to understand self-love and selfishness. By setting boundaries and taking time for ourselves, we can learn to appreciate ourselves with all our flaws and strengths. It's okay to do this without feeling guilty or worrying about seeming selfish. I personally struggled with these concepts. I used to skip rest, fun, and even neglect my health to avoid appearing selfish. I would go out of my way to help others, even if it harmed my own well-being. It wasn't until I delved into philosophy and psychology that I realized the importance of self-love and a certain level of selfishness. These insights transformed not just my personal life, but also my work life, making me happier and more successful. So, I believe this series can offer you valuable insights, whether you're interested in personal development or in applying these lessons to your professional success. The ideas we're discussing today can help you in both your personal and professional life. To lead happier and more peaceful lives, it's important to understand self-love and selfishness. By setting boundaries and taking time for ourselves, we can learn to appreciate ourselves with all our flaws and strengths. It's okay to do this without feeling guilty or worrying about seeming selfish. I personally struggled with these concepts. I used to skip rest, fun, and even neglect my health to avoid appearing selfish. I would go out of my way to help others, even if it harmed my own well-being. It wasn't until I delved into philosophy and psychology that I realized the importance of self-love and a certain level of selfishness. These insights transformed not just my personal life, but also my work life, making me happier and more successful. So, I believe this series can offer you valuable knowledge, whether you're interested in personal development or in applying these lessons to your professional success. Together, we'll challenge common misconceptions, view things from new perspectives, and set out on a journey to understand ourselves and our role in the world better. Self-love is more than indulging in spa days or fancy meals, although those can be part of it. It's a deeper and more significant concept. It means fully accepting ourselves, including our flaws. It's about recognizing our value and treating ourselves with kindness and respect. Self-love isn't about being flawless. It's about being comfortable with who we are. It's understanding that it's okay to make mistakes and showing ourselves the same kindness and patience we offer to others. Loving yourself isn't self-centered or conceited. It's acknowledging our humanity, our mix of strengths and weaknesses, and valuing ourselves as we are. Loving yourself involves caring for your physical, social, and mental well-being. It's about setting boundaries, looking after our needs, pursuing our interests, and prioritizing our needs. It's taking care of our bodies, stimulating our minds, and taking care of our spirits. This isn't selfishness, right? Typically, selfishness is seen negatively, suggesting someone prioritizes their needs over others, even to their harm. However, there's more to this concept, as with many ideas. In this context, when we talk about selfishness, We don't mean being hurtful or thoughtless. We're referring to a positive, healthy kind of selfishness where we make choices that benefit our well-being, even if they don't always align with others' desires. This kind of selfishness allows us to say no, recognize when we're overloaded, pursue our dreams despite societal norms, and prioritize our needs, even if it seems lenient. It's a type of selfishness where we understand that our needs are just as important as others. The relationship between self-love and selfishness can seem confusing, but they're actually connected. To truly love ourselves, we need to be a bit selfish. This means prioritizing our needs, setting boundaries, and making choices that benefit our health. To embrace this positive selfishness, we first need to realize our own worth, which comes from self-love. Self-love and healthy selfishness go hand in hand. They are both important for our personal development and happiness. This balance between self-love and selfishness gives us the strength, confidence, and inner peace to navigate life effectively. How did these ideas come to be? How do they fit into the broader world of philosophy and psychology? How have they developed over time? In this video, we'll explore these questions and more, examining them through the perspectives of various philosophers and psychologists, uncovering their deep insights. It's important to note that we're not advocating for selfishness in the negative sense where it harms others. Our goal is to show you how to develop a healthy, balanced sense of self, where you can advocate for your own needs, recognize your worth, while still caring for and respecting those around you. Now, we'll dive deeper into self-love and healthy selfishness. These concepts are closely related and play important roles in our mental health, personal development, and overall well-being. To understand the importance of self-love for mental health, we need to consider biological, psychological, and behavioral factors. The connection between our self-perception and mental health is well established and has been recognized by psychologists and experts for many years. Imagine gardens in your mind. Just as a garden filled with love, happiness, and care would flourish, our minds also grow with self-love. Negative thoughts like self-doubt, self-criticism, and putting ourselves down can harm our mental well-being, leading to anxiety, sadness, and other issues. Self-love acts as a shield against these harmful thoughts. It means valuing our feelings and situations, allowing ourselves to fully experience our emotions, and understanding their importance. This support can prevent us from suppressing our feelings, which often points to mental disturbance. Self-love empowers us to face life's challenges confidently. We don't crumble under tough or stressful situations. Instead, we stand strong, believing in our ability to overcome these challenges. This toughness is key to maintaining good mental health and navigating life's highs and lows. So, how does healthy selfishness fit in? If self-love is the soil in which our mental garden is, then healthy selfishness is taking care of this garden, ensuring it gets everything it needs to grow. Healthy selfishness means knowing what we need and taking steps to meet those needs, even when we're busy. It involves making time for ourselves, putting our health first, and being okay with setting boundaries. By putting our needs first, we get to know ourselves better, enhance our abilities, and pursue our interests, all of which contribute to our growth. Healthy selfishness also teaches us to say no, stop trying to please everyone, and avoid taking on too much. Many of us fall into these patterns, and it can harm our mental and emotional well-being. Learning to refuse things that drain our energy is an important part of growing as a person and is a form of healthy selfishness. Self-love and healthy selfishness together form a powerful duo that enables us to lead a peaceful, joyful, and fulfilling life. They keep us mentally stable, help our personal development, and equip us to face life's challenges with confidence and strength. By practicing self-love, we create a mental space that's conducive to positive thoughts, self-esteem, and toughness. Our healthy selfishness ensures we nurture this space, giving it the care, attention, and care it needs to grow. Combined, these concepts allow us to live a life fixed on self-love and respect, not dependent on outside approval or validation. In the end, we can learn to balance taking care of our own needs with caring for others. As we continue, we'll explore these concepts further to uncover the valuable lessons they offer. We aim to gain not just knowledge, but also practical wisdom that can transform our lives. Drawing from the deep insights of philosophers and psychologists, we'll go through the journey to self-love and healthy selfishness. Let's set out on this path with to learn and an open mind. Our first stop is Carl Rogers, a famous psychologist and a key figure in humanistic psychology. Rogers' contributions to this field are unforgettable. Let's dig into his thoughts and understand his perspective on self-love. Carl Rogers was an important figure in psychology, born in 1902. He focused on individual human experiences and the idea of self-actualization, challenging the common psychoanalytic and behaviorist views of his time. Rogers' approach centered on each person's own potential for growth and natural goodness. His work, known for its kindness and understanding, has greatly affected psychology, counseling, and psychotherapy. Rogers believed that people need an absolute positive regard to achieve self-actualization, the highest level of psychological development where one realizes their full potential. He defined this as complete acceptance and love for oneself, regardless of circumstances. This is what self-love means. In his humanistic psychology, pure love is key. Rogers highlighted that self-love should not depend on achievements, outside approval, or following societal norms. It should be based on recognizing and accepting one's own value, ignoring outside factors. Rogers believed that loving yourself doesn't mean having ego or pride. It's not thinking you're better than others. It's about knowing your value, being open to your own experiences, and trusting your own thoughts and feelings. He saw this type of self-love as very important for personal development and achieving one's fullest potential. Self-love allows us to safely explore and understand ourselves. It lets us make and learn from mistakes, helping our growth. It also leads to an internal point of judgment, where we rely on our own judgments rather than always seeking validation from others. Roger believed that part of loving yourself is accepting that you can change and grow. He thought that we're always changing, not stuck being one thing. Self-love means accepting who we are now and who we could become. Also, Rogers' approach to therapy was to provide a genuine, understanding, and completely accepting environment. This helps people learn to love themselves and grow. He believed that in such an environment, people naturally move towards better self-understanding, self-acceptance, and realizing their full potential. This shows Rogers' belief in the power of self-love to heal. Rogers' ideas about self-love didn't just change therapy, they also relate to our discussion. His concepts offer a new perspective, encouraging us to love ourselves unconditionally and showing that this can lead to personal growth and achieving our true potential. We're now going to explore Abraham Maslow's work. He was one of the first psychologists to use humanistic approaches. Like Carl Rogers, Maslow's theory on the hierarchy of needs and self-actualization offers a useful perspective for our discussion. The well-known American psychologist Abraham Maslow, born in 1908, highly impacted psychology with his humanistic approach. This approach, often considered a major school of thought in psychology, focuses on the natural goodness of people and the importance of healthy psychological growth. Maslow is famous for his hierarchy of needs theory, which is widely used in various fields like business, marketing, psychology, and education. He placed self-actualization at the top of his hierarchy, highlighting its importance. Maslow described self-actualization as the process of fulfilling one's potential over time. This concept, centered around personal growth and improvement, is related with our discussion on self-love and healthy selfishness. In Maslow's hierarchy, basic needs like food and water form the foundation, while self-actualization is at the top. He suggested that people need to satisfy their basic needs first before pursuing higher goals. This means fulfilling needs for safety, love, connection, and esteem is necessary before one can work on becoming their best self. This idea offers an interesting view of self-love and selfishness. In Maslow's framework, loving yourself is crucial for fulfilling all types of needs. The more we love ourselves, the better we look after our needs, from physical to mental. Practicing self-care, which can be seen as positive selfishness, is a key step in becoming our best selves. Maslow also emphasized the importance of self-esteem in his hierarchy, highlighting how self-love and respect contribute to personal growth. He believed that people need to have self-respect and respect for others to progress in his hierarchy. Self-love is important because it lays the foundation for self-esteem and self-respect. Furthermore, the pursuit of self-actualization can be viewed as a positive type of selfishness. Maslow suggested that seeking personal growth, fulfillment, and peak experiences is part of self-actualization, which means improving oneself. While some might consider this selfish, it's a positive and healthy approach, leading to personal development and happiness. Maslow's theory recognizes that being a bit selfish is key to a happy life, especially when it comes to personal growth and taking care of our own needs. However, Maslow also saw going beyond, which involves helping others and understanding our connection with all people as a part of reaching our full potential. Abraham Maslow's thoughts offer a fresh and interesting perspective on self-love and positive selfishness. His writings highlight the path to achieving our best selves, pointing out the role of healthy selfishness in our growth and how self-love helps us meet our needs. Further, his theory stresses the need for some selfishness for happiness through focusing on our development and fulfilling our own needs. Now, we'll go back to ancient times to explore Aristotle's teachings. As one of the greatest philosophers, his extensive work in philosophy, ethics, and politics has shaped thinking for centuries and offers valuable insights into self-love and healthy selfishness. Aristotle was born in 384 BC and was a student of Plato before teaching Alexander the Great. He founded a school in Athens called the Lyceum and taught there for over a decade. His teachings greatly influenced Western philosophy and laid the foundation for many future philosophical concepts and practices. At the core of Aristotle's philosophy about ethics is the concept of eudaimonia, often interpreted as happiness or doing well. Aristotle believed that eudaimonia is the ultimate goal of life and thinking. It's not about short-term happiness or pleasure, but a lasting state achieved through living a good life and fulfilling one's potential. The concepts of self-love and reasonable self-interest are closely tied to eudaimonia. Aristotle argued that loving oneself is not only acceptable, but very important for achieving eudaimonia. He viewed self-love not as selfishness, but as a desire and effort towards one's own well-being. Aristotle's concept of reasonable self-interest is related to his views on self-love. He believed that as humans, we naturally work to achieve our greatest potential. To truly love ourselves, we should aim for goodness and wisdom, essentially becoming the best versions of ourselves. It's a kind of positive selfishness where we seek personal growth and fulfillment in ways that don't harm others, but instead contribute positively to society. To understand how Aristotle's ideas apply in real life, consider an artist. According to Aristotle, self-love for an artist means dedicating yourself to improving your skills, discovering and embracing your unique artistic style, and realizing your full potential. By acknowledging your passion and talent, you can uniquely impact the world. Imagine having to choose between a job that pays well but doesn't make you happy, and one that pays less but brings you joy. Aristotle would say that loving yourself means choosing the path that truly makes you happy and helps you achieve your potential, even if it's tougher or seems less rewarding initially. To summarize Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, these examples illustrate what it means to live a fulfilling life by pursuing virtue and personal excellence. Self-love and a certain level of selfishness are not just beneficial but necessary. They encourage us to better ourselves and reach our full potential, which in turn adds to our personal growth and the betterment of our community. Aristotle's teachings offer a fresh perspective on self-love and healthy selfishness. His philosophy suggests that these concepts aren't opposing each other, but work together to create a fulfilling life. He encourages us to think about our talents, passions, and choices, highlighting the importance of loving ourselves properly and acting in our best interests. Our journey now takes us to Ayn Rand, an important figure in literature and philosophy. Born in Russia in 1905, Rand relocated to the United States in the 1920s. It was there that she developed her philosophical system called objectivism, showcased in her novels The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. Rand advocated for a form of ethical egoism she termed the virtue of selfishness, offering a unique perspective on self-love and positive selfishness. Rand's objectivism centers on the belief that personal happiness is the ultimate goal in life. She promoted a logical form of selfishness where one's own life and joy are the top priorities. Objectivism holds that it's everyone's moral obligation to prioritize their own well-being, focus on self-care, and uphold their own rights rather than assisting others. In her book, The Virtue of Selfishness, Rand clarifies that her form of selfishness isn't about ignoring others' needs, but about not sacrificing your own interests for them. It's important to understand that Rand doesn't approve harming or exploiting others. Her idea of logical selfishness is about staying true to oneself, maintaining your goals and values, and living in a way that brings personal happiness. Rand believed that individuals should use reason to determine their true interests, avoiding the attraction of immediate pleasure or short-term gains that could harm long-term happiness. To better understand Rand's concept of logical selfishness, it's important to focus on the word rational. Rand's idea of selfishness is not about acting on fleeting desires or short-term wishes. It's about making choices that benefit one's future. According to Rand, someone who is genuinely selfish wouldn't harm others, lie, or steal, as such actions wouldn't be logical. These behaviors destroy trust, damage relationships, and create long-term problems. Self-respect and self-esteem are also key in Rand's view of selfishness. Aristotle's view of self-love is quite similar to Rand's idea. Rand's concept of selfishness focuses on loving yourself, being true to your own values, and pursuing personal growth and happiness. Rand believed that this kind of logical selfishness is very important for a just society. She thought that if everyone looked after their own interests while respecting others' rights to do the same, it would lead to a society where people cooperate and appreciate each other. Rand argued that in a world where everyone practices logical selfishness, people would be free, content, and respectful of each other's rights. As we discuss self-love and healthy selfishness, Ayn Rand's perspective offers a challenging and interesting angle. Her approval of logical selfishness challenges common views and invites us to reconsider our understanding of selfishness and its role in our lives. This highlights how important it is to live our lives according to our values and our own best interests, and to see the big role this plays in our overall well-being and happiness. Even though some might find her philosophy too extreme or understand it as just promoting self-centeredness, acknowledging and valuing ourselves is undeniably important. By doing so, we not only achieve personal happiness, but also contribute to a more honest, open, and ultimately peaceful society. Our exploration now brings us to the world of Stoicism, where we meet Epictetus, a renowned Stoic philosopher. Despite a difficult start in life as a slave in Phrygia around 55 AD, Epictetus became a major Stoic thinker. His teachings have been valuable for centuries and remain relevant today. Stoicism teaches that good qualities like wisdom and morality are key to happiness. While we can't control what happens to us, we can control our reactions. Stoicism advocates for maintaining calm and accepting our fate and circumstances, all while striving to improve through logic, self-control, and moral excellence. Epictetus, a famous Stoic philosopher, is well known for his teachings on inner freedom and self-discipline. His major works, such as Discourses and Enchiridion, explore these concepts in depth. Epictetus taught the importance of understanding what's within our control, like our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and what's not, like external events, other people's actions, or their opinions. This understanding is the foundation of his philosophy and Stoicism as a whole. For Epictetus, self-control isn't just about saying no to desires or acting impulsively. It's about managing our reactions and emotions in response to external situations. It means realizing that our inner peace or happiness is shaped not by events themselves, but by how we respond to them. This idea aligns closely with self-love because it emphasizes taking care of our mental and emotional well-being and maintaining our internal calm. Stoicism highly values self-care, focusing on maintaining peace of mind, emotional strength, and ethical integrity. In Stoicism, self-care isn't just about pampering or physical relaxation as many think. It's about keeping a balance of mind, body, and spirit through practices like meditation, self-reflection, and healthcare. It also involves improving our logical thinking, managing our emotions, and growing in virtue, all linked to self-love and acting for our own good. The teachings of Epictetus and Stoicism strongly resonate with the concepts of self-love and sensible self-interest. He advises us to prioritize inner calm, think logically, and uphold moral values, all signs of self-love and self-interest. Perhaps the strongest connection is in maintaining internal freedom and self-discipline. Being self-aware, respecting ourselves, and being responsible for our mental well-being are crucial for loving ourselves and acting in our best interests. Applying Epictetus's teachings to everyday life can make a big difference. For example, if a work project is causing you stress, use his advice to focus on what's in your control. You might not be able to control the final outcome of the project, but you can control your effort, how you manage your time, and how you handle stress. If you're struggling with self-esteem, consider Epictetus's thoughts on inner freedom. Realize that your worth comes from your own morals, actions, and inner peace, not from others' opinions or external events. We now turn to Jean-Paul Sartre, a French philosopher and a key figure in existentialism. He will guide us further in understanding self-love and selfishness. Sartre, born in 1905 in Paris, was a prolific writer and thinker. His contributions highly impacted Western philosophy, particularly existentialism and phenomenology. Existentialism, a movement Sartre championed, revolves around the idea that each individual experiences a world that may be indifferent or even hostile to them. This philosophy values individual freedom, making choices, and taking responsibility. Existentialists believe that each person has the freedom to define their own life's meaning. This freedom is empowering yet demanding, as it comes with the responsibility of making choices. A key concept in Sartre's philosophy is that our existence comes before our essence, meaning we first exist and then define our own core nature. Sartre's concept of authenticity comes from accepting this internal freedom, living in a way that's true to oneself, regardless of others' opinions or expectations. To be authentic, as Sartre saw it, means accepting this freedom and taking complete responsibility for our actions, choices, and their consequences. It requires acknowledging that you're the one in control of your life, and you can't blame others or external circumstances. Sartre said, "People are forced to be free because once they're in the world, they're responsible for everything they do." This idea ties closely with being true to oneself, loving oneself, and being sensibly selfish. Sartre's concept of being authentic involves being honest about who we are and putting our own beliefs and values first. It's about understanding what we want, making our own choices, and being true to our real selves. This means liking yourself enough to live authentically, even if it goes against others' expectations. However, authenticity isn't just selfishness. For Sartre, it involves both freedom and responsibility. It's not an excuse to ignore others or avoid responsibilities, but rather an invitation to be honest about our freedom and choices. There's a slight but significant difference between this and selfishness. Being authentic means acknowledging and acting upon our desires, but not at the expense of others. To apply Sartre's idea of authenticity in real life, consider your relationships. Being authentic means being honest about your needs and feelings, even if they differ from those of your partner, friend, or family. It's about having the courage to be yourself and not compromising your values or morals just to please others. In a workplace, being true to yourself could mean choosing a career that brings you joy, rather than one that's popular or pays the most. The key is to understand what you really want and take charge of decisions that support your true interests and goals. Sartre's concept of authenticity offers a deep perspective on self-love and positive selfishness, helps us explore self-love and selfishness more deeply. Now, our philosophical journey takes us to the East under the Bodhi tree of Buddhism. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the Buddha, in the 6th century BC, is an ancient philosophy that has helped millions worldwide. The Buddha's teachings revolve around the 4 noble truths, which describe life's nature, its causes, the ending of suffering, and the path to achieve it. The Noble Eightfold Path is Buddha's guideline for ending suffering and achieving nirvana, a state of complete peace and knowledge. The Middle Way, also known as the Noble Eightfold Path, is a key teaching of the Buddha. It's about finding a balance, avoiding extremes of overconsumption and self-denial. This approach promotes a peaceful and mindful lifestyle. The Buddha discovered this path after experiencing both extreme hardship and great luxury, realizing that neither led to true happiness or enlightenment. This path encompasses mental discipline, wisdom, and ethical living, including right view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Together, these elements form a lifestyle that helps in freeing oneself from suffering. Looking at the Middle Way's impact on self-love and selfishness, we see a unique connection. Buddhist self-love involves caring for one's physical and mental well-being. It means nurturing positive thoughts and reducing negative ones. Practicing self-love resonates with the Middle Way, balancing self-care without tipping into being self-centered or ignoring oneself. In Buddhism, being selfish isn't always seen as bad. It's the harmful ways of being selfish, like being greedy, hateful, or delusional, that are looked down upon. These negative traits are believed to cause suffering and lead people astray. However, Buddhism does value a healthy kind of selfishness, such as looking after your own well-being. This is important because it helps develop self-love and kindness, key parts of following the Middle Way. Think about meditation, an important Buddhist practice. Meditation is both an act of self-love and sensible selfishness. It's a special time set aside for yourself, where you focus on yourself and work on being calm and aware. This fits with the Middle Way, promoting balance and avoiding extremes like being too focused on external things or completely unattached. In everyday life, the Middle Way can help us find a good balance between our personal and work lives. It encourages us to take care of ourselves without forgetting our duties to others. It guides us to live healthily, not overdoing pleasures, but also not denying ourselves happiness and comfort. It teaches us to treat life with fairness, understanding, and compassion, both towards others and ourselves. The Buddha's Middle Way gives us an interesting way to think about the balance between self-love and being selfish. It teaches us to develop self-love and a healthy level of self-interest without going too far into being self-centered or self-denial. Moving forward in our exploration, we look at the mid-20th century and the work of Erich Fromm, a German social psychologist, psychoanalyst, sociologist, and humanistic philosopher. Born in 1900 in Frankfurt, Germany, Fromm's theories provided deep knowledge of human behavior, love, and society. Fromm is famous for his book, The Art of Loving, published in 1956. In this important book, he describes love not just as a feeling that can be changed by passion or outside things, but as an art that needs to be carefully developed and cared for. Fromm believed that loving involves discipline, focus, patience, and moving beyond self-centeredness. Most importantly, he thought that being able to love oneself is very important. Fromm's view on self-love is not about being self-centered or overly proud. He taught that self-love and loving others are deeply connected and cannot be separated. For Fromm, loving yourself means recognizing your own value and accepting your imperfections. This kind of self-love leads to a true ability to love others. He said, "In loving, we find sanity and the true value of being human." He saw mental health as connected with the ability to love oneself and others. To him, you can't love others if you don't love yourself, and vice versa. Fromm suggested that true self-love means balancing our own needs with those of others, valuing our goals while also valuing others. This approach to self-love is not self-centered, but includes caring for others. In our daily interactions, Fromm advised us to listen actively, understand, and respect each other, coming from a place of self-love that extends to others. It tells us to be patient, both with others and ourselves, as we face life's challenges. Fromm's idea helps us accept our mistakes and improve on them without being too hard on ourselves. It promotes a healthy way of thinking deeply about ourselves, helping us grow and know ourselves better. Fromm's view of self-love as a part of loving others adds an important aspect to how we see self-love and selfishness. His ideas make us see self-love not as just focusing on ourselves, but as an important step in loving others and living a full life. As we explore different ideas about self-love and selfishness, we discover a variety of thoughts, each unique but with shared ideas. Looking at these different views helps us understand them better and use them in our everyday life. Carl Rogers showed us that loving ourselves is closely linked to reaching our full potential. When we see ourselves in a good light, we can fully explore our abilities. Abraham Maslow also talked about this in his hierarchy of needs, where self-love helps us achieve our greatest goals. Aristotle talked about something similar, saying happiness comes from understanding ourselves and being the best we can be. On a different note, Ayn Rand's idea of objectivism says that following our own interests wisely is the best thing we can do. This is different from what the Stoic thinker Epictetus believed. He said it's better to focus on self-discipline and inner peace, aiming for a calm and good life rather than just doing what we want right away. Jean-Paul Sartre's existentialism tells us to look for realness in our lives, meaning self-love involves being free and responsible for what we do. Buddha's teaching, the middle way, advises us to find a balance, avoiding too much or too little self-focus. This way, we learn a balanced approach to self-love and not being too selfish. Erich Fromm connects these ideas by showing that self-love is key to loving others. His work highlights how loving ourselves and others are connected. Despite coming from different times and places, these thinkers all value self-love and a healthy level of selfishness. They agree that self-love isn't about being proud or self-centered, but is essential for our happiness and a good life. They see selfishness as taking care of ourselves, not ignoring others. From these ideas, we learn some important things for our lives today. Self-love means knowing we're worth a lot and being nice and respectful to ourselves. It's about understanding what we need, like physical, emotional, or mental care. Being healthily selfish is about creating boundaries and making time for ourselves even when we're busy. It means looking after our own interests, but still being kind and thoughtful to others. In a world where we're often told to put other people first, these ideas from philosophy and psychology tell us it's also important to look after ourselves. Like the saying goes, you can't give to others if you're empty. By taking care of ourselves, we can better help others and make a positive impact on those around us. As we go on our own life paths, let's use the wisdom of these philosophers and psychologists as a guide. Their ideas can help light the way as we figure out self-love and how to be healthily selfish. Remember, loving ourselves and being a bit selfish in a balanced way aren't stopping our growth. They actually help us grow. They are the backbone of a life that's not just good, but also meaningful, satisfying, and truly ours. Have you ever thought deeply about life's big questions like, who am I? Why am I here? Or what's the purpose of life? If you have, you've stepped into existentialism without even knowing it. Existentialism is a way of thinking that focuses on our own personal existence, freedom, and choices. Picture yourself floating in the huge space, looking down at Earth, a small ball in the huge universe. All of human life, with its ups and downs, is just a tiny part of this vast space. It feels too big to understand, right? Maybe even a bit strange. But don't worry, because feeling small like this is where existentialism starts. Existentialism is about finding yourself and life's meaning through your own choices and taking responsibility for them. It believes that the universe doesn't have built-in truths or meanings about our lives. Instead, it says that we should create our own meanings in life, in a universe that doesn't really care and where usual rules or morals don't make things easy. This way of thinking started in the late 1800s and early 1900s, emerging from the confusion and disappointment after World War II. It was like a philosophical revolution, trying to understand human life in a world that seemed more and more strange. Two philosophers stand out in this interesting area, Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus. We will use their work as a guiding light in this exploration. Jean-Paul Sartre, a famous French philosopher, is often seen as the main person in existentialist thinking. He believed that we're born without a set purpose or nature, and we have to make our own purpose with our choices and actions. According to Sartre, we don't come into the world with a specific mission or built-in meaning. Instead, we find ourselves in a random world, and it's up to us to shape our fate and give our lives their own special meaning. Next, there's Albert Camus, another French philosopher. He's often grouped with existentialists, but he thought of his ideas as ridiculous. Camus believed that the universe doesn't care about our problems or happiness. Instead of feeling hopeless, he saw this as a chance to make our own meaning, to fight against this nonsense and enjoy the freedom it brings. We're going to explore their philosophies in detail, understanding their main ideas and seeing how these ideas can help us in our own lives. After all, isn't the main point to understand and find our way in this huge universe? Join us as we explore the world of existentialism. This journey might not give us simple answers, but it will definitely make us think deeply about life, freedom, and our own responsibilities. The roots of existentialism go back to the 19th and 20th centuries, but they reach even further back, backed by the rich history of philosophy. This philosophy's focus on personal experiences, freedom, and what life means comes from thinkers like Søren Kierkegaard and Friedrich Nietzsche. Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher from the mid-19th century, is often seen as the first person to think in an existentialist way. He talked a lot about the importance of what we experience personally and taking responsibility for ourselves. He didn't agree with the way philosophy was mostly theoretical and stressed that what we experience ourselves is most important. He believed that truth depends on the person, especially when it comes to morals and religion, meaning that these truths are very personal and depend on individual views. On the other side, we have Nietzsche, a bold German philosopher who strongly challenged the accepted values of his era. His philosophy had a lot in common with existentialism, focusing on individualism. He talked about the importance of being creative and life-loving and going against traditional morals to make your own values. Even with these early beginnings, existentialism as we know it really started to stand out after World War II. This was a time of great sadness, loss, and identity crisis. It was when society and philosophical beliefs were turned upside down, making people rethink their role in the world. At this time, existentialism's ideas about personal freedom, making choices, and finding a real way to live really hit home. This philosophy's main idea is that we exist before we have a purpose or nature, which is different from the old idea that we're born with a set purpose or nature. It means that we come into the world without a specific role and that it's up to us to shape who we are through what we do and decide. Simone de Beauvoir, another important existentialist, talked about this idea in her book, The Second Sex. She looked at existentialism from the perspective of women, linking it to the growing movement for women's rights. Existentialism was also greatly influenced by the big political changes happening at the time. The rise of dictatorships, the horrors of the Holocaust, and the fear of nuclear war created a lot of fear, uncertainty, and feeling of being disconnected, which is reflected in existentialist writings. It's important to mention the impact of culture, especially literature and art, on existentialism. You can see existential ideas in the stories of Fyodor Dostoevsky, Franz Kafka, and Samuel Beckett. Their characters often struggle with feelings of sadness, being alone, and the weirdness of life, showing existentialism clearly. So, existentialism grew from a mix of philosophical ideas, big historical changes, and cultural works. It was a way to answer the modern world's tough questions, encouraging people to confront the strangeness of life and find their own meaning in all the confusion. Now that we understand the background, let's focus on Sartre and Camus. Their ideas, formed during these hard times, still help and motivate us as we deal with our own life's challenges. Jean-Paul Sartre, who was born in 1905 in Paris, France, had many talents. He was a philosopher, writer, playwright, and critic, and his influence reached way beyond just philosophy. He's mostly known as the main person in the existentialist movement. Sartre lost his parents when he was young and was raised by his grandparents. He was really smart and went to a high-ranked university in Paris. There, he met Simone de Beauvoir, a very strong thinker herself, and they started a unique relationship that challenged the usual social norms. During World War II, Sartre worked as a weather forecaster in the French army and was captured by German forces in 1940. His war experiences and time as a prisoner greatly influenced his thinking, especially his ideas about freedom, responsibility, and what life means. Sartre made a big impact in existentialist philosophy with his idea that we exist before we have a purpose. Unlike traditional philosophy, which says things have a set nature or purpose, Sartre thought people first show up, find out about themselves, and then decide what they are about. This concept is linked to his belief in extreme freedom. Sartre believed everyone is completely free and must own their actions. Since humans don't have a fixed nature or outside rules for value, our actions help shape what being human means. This freedom can feel exciting and scary. It means people have many ways to mess up, but also that they have to own their lives and choices. Sartre said people often try to escape the pressure of freedom by pretending they're not free, which he called bad faith. When we blame our situation, our DNA, or society's rules, we're dodging the responsibility for our actions and freedom. Realizing and accepting our freedom is the first step to living an authentic life. Sartre's philosophy spends a lot of time on the concept of nothingness. He thinks about how being aware is kind of like nothingness, which helps us disconnect from the world and lets us overcome our situations. In his major book, Being and Nothingness, he describes human life as a tricky mix of being and nothingness, a struggle that shapes who we are. Sartre also talks about how it feels when others look at us. He noticed that when we're aware of how others see us, we can feel like objects. This is what he meant when he said, "Hell is other people." According to Sartre, this doesn't mean all relationships are bad, but it does show that other people's views can sometimes limit our freedom. Sartre was a philosopher who really cared about making a difference in society and politics. He didn't think philosophy was just for studying. He used it as a tool to challenge and improve society. Existentialism, his key philosophy, tells people to realize and use their freedom to fight against wrongs and live truly. His book, Being and Nothingness, written in 1943, is his major work. It goes deep into existentialism and phenomenology, exploring human consciousness, freedom, and life's true nature. Sartre discusses two types of existence, the non-thinking existence of objects and the thinking existence of conscious beings. He believes our freedom in this thinking existence is what defines us as humans. Sartre believed people are naturally free because we are always growing and changing, not just stuck as one thing. Our ability to think lets us question the world and imagine different ways things could be. The core of Sartre's ideas is that we can think beyond what exists and dream about what could exist. In his book, Being and Nothingness, he says, people are not just what they already are, but what they could become. This means he saw us as works in progress, defined not by our past or present, but by what we can do in the future, how we can change and reinvent ourselves. In Nausea, Sartre's first major book, released in 1938, he tells the story of Antoine Roquentin. Roquentin is having a tough time mentally, feeling sick when he thinks about how life seems pointless and silly. Sartre uses Roquentin's feelings to explore ideas like being alone, having freedom, and life's lack of built-in meaning. Roquentin gets physically sick when he realizes life doesn't have a purpose and doesn't care about him, which Sartre uses to describe a deep discomfort with life's absurdity. The book has a powerful quote: "Everything in existence starts for no reason, continues because it can't do otherwise, and ends randomly." This captures the distress Roquentin feels, and maybe what we all feel, in a world that lacks its own meaning. Sartre believed that because life has no set meaning, it actually gives us freedom. This freedom doesn't have to make us sad, it lets us choose from many possibilities. It means we have the chance, or even the responsibility, to create our own purpose and shape who we are with our choices and actions. In Nausea, he writes, "I am free. I can't find a reason to live. I've tried many and they all failed. I need to make my own reasons." This tells us to take action, to realize it's tough but rewarding to make our own meaning in a world that doesn't offer it. Sartre's books like Being and Nothingness and Nausea courageously and intricately explore what it means to be human. They confront us with the unsettling fact that we are free and there's no preset meaning, but they also empower us to create our own identities. Albert Camus was born in 1913 in French Algeria, where he grew up very poor. This experience made him more aware of political issues and more understanding of marginalized people. He was a great student, so the University of Algiers helped him pay for his philosophy studies. There he found his passion for theatre, journalism, and political activities. Camus moved to France just before World War II and quickly joined the French resistance, working on a secret newspaper called Combat and speaking against fascism. His mix of philosophy, writing, and political involvement made his approach to philosophy unique. Though many associate Camus with existentialism, he didn't like that label and instead called his ideas the philosophy of the absurd. He believed that life's craziness comes from our search for meaning clashing with the world's lack of it. In his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, he explains this idea in detail. Sisyphus was punished to endlessly push a rock up a hill, only for it to roll back down. Like him, we face the never-ending cycle of life and death in a world that seems not to care, which feels pointless. However, Camus believed this absurdity shouldn't make us unhappy. Instead, realizing how silly our situation is can help us live fully and truthfully. He said, "Just the effort to reach the top is enough to make a person's life meaningful. We should think of Sisyphus as happy." Camus also thought we should fight against life's nonsense. By choosing to live despite life's craziness, we're rebelling in a personal way. This shows our strength and dignity. This idea of fighting back is also in his political beliefs, where he stood for justice and resisting oppression. Camus believed that creating our own morals is important, especially since there are no universal moral rules. For him, simple joys and physical experiences, like feeling the sun's warmth, appreciating the Mediterranean's beauty, and spending time with friends, were valuable. This appreciation for the physical and touchable is shown by Meursault, the main character in The Stranger, who focuses only on the physical world. Even though he valued physical experiences, Camus didn't overlook the importance of being morally good. He thought everyone should be responsible for their actions in a world lacking moral guidance. But this responsibility to be moral comes from a personal commitment to live truthfully and fight injustice, not from religious commands or societal norms. Camus' ideas about the absurd are both eye-opening and motivating. He challenges us to see how absurd our lives can be and to make the most of them by challenging the status quo and finding our own purpose. His first book, The Stranger, published in 1942, is likely his most famous work. The story is narrated by Meursault, a French Algerian who doesn't really care about anything. The book deals with themes like nonsense, indifference and resistance, central to Camus' thinking. Meursault doesn't express feelings about his mother's death or feel guilty for committing a violent act without reason. His detachment from emotions and society's norms illustrates Camus' concept of the absurd. The courtroom scene is key to understanding Meursault's mindset, especially when he says, "I lived my life a certain way, but I could have lived it differently. I did some things and not others. There were things I didn't do, but I did other things." This statement really shows who Meursault is and what Camus' philosophy of absurdism is about. To him, life is just a bunch of random choices without much meaning. While this may sound negative, Camus thought realizing life's silliness doesn't mean giving up. It actually lets people live freely without worrying about society's rules. Camus emphasizes this by sentencing Meursault to death. Facing death, Meursault accepts life's nonsense and feels connected to the uncaring universe. This reflects Camus' idea of resisting against the nonsense to truly appreciate life. The Stranger isn't just about emotional chaos and fighting against the norm, it also dives into the complexity of morality. Meursault's actions and how others respond to them prompt us to question morality in a world without clear moral rules. In such a confusing world, what's right and what's wrong? Camus doesn't offer simple solutions. He encourages us to figure out these moral questions ourselves, suggesting that we need to create our own moral compass. Near the end of the book, Meursault reflects, "To feel less alone at the end, I just hope for a big crowd at my execution, hating me." The protagonist of The Stranger brings to life Camus' philosophy of the absurd. We're faced with an uncaring universe and life's randomness, and we're encouraged to think on meaning and morals in a purposeless world. Camus' philosophy, both serious and strengthening, challenges us to face our existence's absurdity while encouraging us to assert our lives by rebelling and making our own meanings. In our next part, we'll look at how Sartre and Camus' existential ideas can help us in our daily lives, leading us to find true selves, freedom, and personal purpose. After exploring the thoughts of Sartre and Camus, we'll ask, how do these existential ideas connect to our everyday life now? How can their 20th century thoughts help us in today's world? First, these philosophers change the way we see life. Sartre tells us to accept our complete freedom and the responsibility that comes with it. In a world shaped by outside forces, traditions, family expectations, and popular trends, we're reminded that we have the power to decide who we are and what we care about. This shows in the choices we make every day, like in our jobs, relationships, hobbies, or how we handle life's challenges. We're not trapped by our situation, our past, or what others expect of us. We have the freedom to create our lives and take responsibility for our actions. This way of thinking can make us feel more in control and true to ourselves. Think about this real-life situation. You might be in a job that doesn't make you happy, chosen maybe because of what society or your family expects. Sartre would say to use your freedom, think about your choices, and decide on your career based on what you really want and believe in, not because of outside pressure. From Camus, we learn to face life's absurdity head-on. Instead of looking for comfort in the idea of an absolute meaning or final rescue, he suggests we come up with our own meaning and values. This can free us from just following what society expects and constantly chasing success as defined by others. Plus, Camus' idea of resistance can encourage us to accept our lives even when things are tough. Imagine you face a tough situation, like failing at something or losing something important. Camus would tell you to face this challenge directly, understand it's just part of life's craziness, and keep going, which is like fighting against life's absurdity. For example, if something goes wrong in your personal or work life, instead of feeling hopeless or thinking it means you're not good enough, you could see it as a normal part of life's unpredictability and learn from it to strengthen your dedication to your goals. Also, existentialism's focus on being true to ourselves encourages us to really dive into what we love and care about, making us feel more fulfilled in a world that often cares too much about shallow things. Existentialism reminds us to genuinely connect with life. It pushes us to be responsible for what we do in a world without clear-cut moral rules. We have to create our own sense of what's right and wrong. This takes self-reflection, talking things out, and making thoughtful choices, leading to a more aware and active way of thinking about right and wrong. Existentialism encourages us to think differently about our lives and our search for meaning. It points out that life doesn't come with a built-in purpose and that it's up to each of us to make our own way. This way of thinking provides a guide for people looking for purpose and satisfaction in our busy, complicated world. First, let's talk about finding a purpose. In a world full of choices that can sometimes be overwhelming, existentialism tells us to accept this uncertainty and the freedom and responsibility to make decisions. Sartre's famous saying, "We are our choices," is closely related to this idea. Existentialism suggests that instead of looking for a purpose given to us from the outside, we should create our own purpose with the actions we take and the responsibilities we accept. For instance, if you're at a point in your career where you could go in several directions, each with its own benefits and challenges, existentialism would advise you to look inside yourself, figure out what you really want and believe in, and choose a path that matches that. Your purpose, then, is something you make with your choices and actions. When it comes to feeling fulfilled, existentialism has a similar empowering view. By focusing on being true to ourselves and really getting involved in life, we can find a deeper sense of fulfillment. Fulfillment here doesn't come from meeting what society expects or achieving common success. It comes from living in a way that's true to you, choosing your own path, diving into your passions and interests, and making your own meaning. For example, you might feel really happy doing a hobby you love, even if it doesn't fit with what people usually think of as success or being productive. Or you might feel fulfilled by helping a cause that's important to you, building strong relationships, or always learning and growing. Sartre and Camus say that the meaning of our lives comes from what we do and how we think. This idea tells us to care more about being true to ourselves than about what others think. It reminds us that we're not just watching life happen, but we're actually a big part of it. This change in thinking can lead to big personal growth and a more satisfying life as we start to shape our lives based on what's really important to us, not just what's happening around us. To understand this better, think about judging success not by money or how many people follow you online, but by how honestly you live, how excited you are about your work, how much you dive into your interests, and how much you personally grow. This way of thinking would give you a deeper sense of satisfaction that's about being true to yourself, not just what others see. Also, by facing and accepting the strange and random parts of life, as Camus suggests, we can find satisfaction. We stop seeing life's hard times, problems, and pain as just interruptions. Instead, we see them as important parts of our life, chances to get better and to keep following the path we've chosen. This way, a setback or failure isn't a roadblock to being happy, but a part of the journey. It's an opportunity to think things over, learn, improve, and keep going with more determination and insight. Existentialism gives us a strong way to look at our search for purpose and happiness. It doesn't give us simple solutions or set paths. Instead, it gives us the tools and viewpoints we need to handle life's complexities, to make thoughtful choices, and to create our own purpose and happiness. Existentialism is just as important and impactful now as it was back in the mid-20th century. It can help us see things more clearly and find our way in a world that's getting more and more complex and unclear. The ideas of Sartre and Camus encourage us to think hard about our lives, question what we've always believed, and actively work on making our own purpose and happiness. As we finish this part, I want to encourage you, the viewer, to keep thinking about these ideas, question them, talk about them, and view your life through this existential perspective. Remember, your life isn't shaped by outside situations or fixed traits. You have the power to form your own life, to make your own meaning, to decide what you want to do, and to find happiness in a world that's often full of doubt and chaos. Existentialism reminds us that we are the ones who write our own stories. So, as we leave the ideas of Sartre and Camus and go back to our daily lives, let's do it with a new feeling of control, being true to ourselves, and a determination to live life fully with meaning and truth. Do you ever feel stressed by how fast everything moves today? Have you looked for peace in a chaotic world or clear understanding when things are uncertain? What if I said there's a way to live that can help you manage life's ups and downs calmly and strongly? This way is called Stoicism, an old philosophy that's still useful today, 2,000 years after it was first thought of. Stoicism teaches us valuable lessons on how to be happy, manage our feelings, and handle disagreements with calmness and strength. Stoicism advises us to focus on what we can change and accept what we can't. A well-known Stoic philosopher from ancient Rome, Seneca, who lived around 4 BC, is a famous follower of this mindset. Seneca was not just a philosopher, but also a politician, playwright, and once an advisor to Emperor Nero. But we mainly remember him for his deep philosophical writings that have influenced many thinkers, leaders, and everyday people over the years. Among his philosophical works, Letters from a Stoic stands out as one of the most impactful. It's a set of 124 letters Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, filled with his knowledge, wisdom, and advice on various subjects. These letters are a timeless resource for living well, packed with valuable lessons. They teach us about the importance of being good, staying strong in tough times, and much more. Seneca's teachings aren't just ideas, they are practical tips we can use every day. They offer us a guide to lead a good life and find calm in a hectic world. As we dig into Seneca's letters to understand Stoicism better, it's important to recognize how these lessons are still relevant to us. The world may be very different from Seneca's time in Rome, but our hopes, fears, challenges, and emotions are pretty similar. In a world where we're constantly distracted, the Stoic idea of focusing on what we can change is very helpful. It clears our minds, letting us put our energy into our actions and reactions, not into worrying about everything happening around us. This Stoic rule can make us not just more productive, but also give us peace and calm in the middle of chaos. Nowadays, many people think success is about having a lot of money and being famous. But Seneca's letters tell us that true richness and joy come from being good and wise. His teachings encourage us to think differently about what success really means and to aim for self-improvement, living a good life, and having meaningful connections with others. This can bring us a deep and lasting sense of happiness. Seneca's straightforward way of talking about life and death is really insightful, especially in a world that often ignores death. His thoughts push us to think about our own lives ending, which helps us live more meaningfully, enjoy every moment, and get the most out of our short lives. Seneca also taught us how to handle our emotions like anger, fear, worry, and sadness. His advice on staying strong emotionally, being disciplined, and using logical thinking can be very helpful for our mental well-being. The ideas we'll explore aren't just old philosophical thoughts, they're practical, powerful, and really relevant to our lives today. They offer valid advice that can help us face our complex world with balance, bravery, and intelligence. In one of his letters he wrote, "Fire tests gold, tough times test strong people." This comparison neatly sums up Seneca's view on challenges. Just like fire purifies gold, going through and overcoming challenges tests and strengthens who we are. This isn't about looking for trouble on purpose. It's about changing how we see our problems and finding the strength and toughness to handle them. How can we apply this wisdom in our everyday lives? Take the global pandemic as an example. For many, this was a challenging time with health risks, money problems, and lots of uncertainty, but it also pushed people, communities, and countries to be strong, come up with new ideas, and change. In our own lives, tough times might be losing a job, ending a relationship, or facing health issues. These things are hard, but they also give us chances to grow. We've seen people start working from home, businesses going online, communities helping each other, and healthcare getting better at fighting the virus. Losing a job might lead to a more satisfying one, or starting your own business. A breakup can help you understand yourself better and make positive changes. A health issue can be a reminder to focus on your health and make better daily choices. The Stoic approach to handling problems isn't about ignoring or suppressing the hurt. They suggest recognizing it, accepting it as real, and then using it to create positive change and growth. They think that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control our responses to it. This doesn't make hard times easy, but Seneca's advice helps us see challenges as chances to grow and improve. How can we apply Seneca's advice today? Start by practicing mindfulness, which means being totally focused on the here and now. Whether you're working with loved ones or just by yourself, try to be completely there and enjoy the moment without distractions. This can make you enjoy each moment more and also boost your concentration, productivity, and health. Next, look at your daily habits and tasks. Are you spending time on things that don't matter or make you happy? Can you reduce, eliminate, or simplify these to free up more time for important things? Remember, every minute spent on something meaningless is a minute lost for something valuable. Thirdly, be thankful for the time you have. Instead of worrying about how fast time goes, appreciate each day, hour, and even every breath as the precious gifts they are. Live in the present, not just for the future. Yes, set goals and work towards them, but also enjoy the journey towards those goals. Remember, life is happening right now, in the present moment. Seneca's reminder about how short life is serves as an important wake-up call. It urges us to stop wasting time and waiting for the future to be happy, and to start fully living in the present. It's a reminder that life is brief. Seneca talked a lot about life and philosophy, but he always highlighted the value of human relationships. He knew how much we need to connect with others. His views on friendship are still meaningful today. For instance, he said, "Understanding and being understood are the most beautiful parts of true friendship." This simple yet deep idea tells us a lot about what friendship means and why it's so important. This quote means that being able to understand and feel for each other is the key in friendships and relationships. To understand and be understood is about really feeling what others feel, listening and sharing openly, and seeing life from each other's perspective. How can we use this old wisdom today? The core of a meaningful relationship is empathy, understanding each other's happiness, pain, dreams, and fears, and most importantly, offering support and kindness through good and bad times. It's vital to maintain these understanding relationships in a period where we're often more connected online, but can feel emotionally far apart. This involves making time for these connections even when we're busy, like having deep conversations, being there in times of need, or simply sharing happy moments together. Seneca's advice makes us think about the relationships we have. Are they really understanding and empathetic, or are they just shallow? Are we stuck in relationships that bring us down, or are we with people who get us and make us feel better? Remember, it's not about how many friends we have, but how meaningful those friendships are. Lastly, Seneca's quote isn't just about us being understood, but also about us understanding others. This means being good listeners, showing compassion, and trying to understand others without being quick to judge. We should try to understand their views, feelings, and experiences. This is about developing empathy and letting it guide our interactions with others. In a world where misunderstandings often cause problems, this kind of understanding is crucial. Seneca's wisdom reminds us of the importance of both understanding and being understood. It also tells us that the best friendships are built on mutual empathy. Seneca taught us a lot, including how to handle our feelings, especially anger. He said, "Nothing is more blinding than anger." This shows how important it is to control our emotions, particularly anger, which can be very damaging. Seneca believed that anger is a selfish emotion that makes us act without thinking and often leads to choices we regret later. It's easy to get angry, but how can we use Seneca's ideas to control it? How can we better manage our anger in today's often stressful and argumentative world? First, Seneca tells us to realize that anger does more harm to us than to those we're angry at. Once we know this, we can start to distance ourselves from anger and see it more clearly. The next step is being aware of ourselves. We need to figure out what triggers our anger and pay attention to the signs in our body and mind when we start feeling angry. This self-awareness can help us act before our anger gets too strong. The Stoics strongly believed in using reason and logic, and Seneca taught us to think logically to clear our minds when we're angry. We should ask ourselves if our reaction is appropriate and what a better response might be. Along with being aware, activities like going for a walk, doing deep breaths or muscle relaxation exercises can help calm down our mind and body and give us a break from tense situations. From a Stoic perspective, we should remember we can only control our reactions to others' actions. If someone's actions upset us, we can choose not to get angry, but respond with understanding or confidence if needed. By following Seneca's guidance, we can escape the damaging cycle of anger and develop inner calmness and emotional strength. Managing anger isn't about hiding our feelings, it's about handling them in a healthier, more constructive way. Essentially, Seneca shows us to recognize anger as a harmful emotion and provides ways to overcome it. It's a lesson in taking back our control from anger and using it positively. Peace of mind is key in Stoicism and central to what Seneca taught. He believed that being good is simply about thinking and acting rightly. This idea shows that being ethical and moral is the most important thing in Stoicism, and they are very serious about being morally upright. But what exactly did Seneca mean by being good and thinking rightly, and how can we use these ideas in our lives? Seneca and other Stoic thinkers believed that being good is the best thing we can do, more important than money, fame, pleasure, or even our lives. He thought a good person lives by reason and wisdom, treats others fairly, is brave when facing tough times, controls themselves when tempted, and is wise in everything they do. How do we put the idea of right thinking into our everyday actions? First, we can grow in goodness by letting wisdom and clear thinking lead us. This means making choices that are good for us and also fair and right. It means always wanting to learn and understand more, being open to different ways of seeing things, and thinking carefully to deal with life's complicated situations. Second, Seneca tells us to think about our actions and thoughts. Are they matching the good qualities we want to have? Are we honest even when nobody is watching? Do we pick the fair and right choice, even if the wrong one might be easier or give us more benefits? Checking in with ourselves regularly can help us make sure our actions match our moral values, making sure we live a good life. Also, being good means being empathetic and kind. We need to see the value in everyone and treat others nicely and respectfully. It involves standing up against unfairness, helping those who need it, and trying to make a positive difference in our communities. Finally, to live by right thinking, we should build our ability to stay strong and balanced. Life will definitely have its ups and downs, but a good person deals with these difficulties with strength and calmness, making sure that outside situations don't make them lose their moral values. By putting these ideas into our everyday life, we can make Seneca's teachings real. We can live a life of goodness and right thinking, finding true satisfaction and peace that goes beyond just short-term joys or outside successes. Seneca's focus on being good reminds us how important it is to be morally upright in a world that often cares too much about money and things. His lessons encourage us to put goodness first, to aim for being morally excellent, and to live in a way that matches our best values while dealing with life's challenges. Let Seneca's wisdom lead us to a life of goodness, a life led by right thinking. And Seneca, even though he was rich, had unique ideas about wealth and happiness. He didn't believe that being rich makes you happy. Instead, he thought being good and wise were the real ways to be happy. He famously said, "The unhappiest person is the one who never faces tough times because he doesn't get to show what he's made of." This quote makes us think differently about money, happiness, and how challenges affect us. It might sound strange at first. Don't we all want a life without problems? But Seneca believes that a life without challenges makes us unhappy and unfulfilled. So, what does he really mean by this? Seneca's thinking shows us that facing hard times helps us grow and learn about ourselves. Without tough times, we don't get the chance to see how strong we are, find out what we're really good at, and reach our full potential. In short, true happiness comes from overcoming challenges and understanding who we are and what we can do. Chasing money, though, often takes us away from learning about ourselves. Money can give us comfort and safety, but it can also make us lazy, self-centered, and think we're entitled to things. When we're protected by wealth, we might not get the chance to test our strength, learn, and show our true value. How can we use Seneca's ideas to change how we think about money and happiness today? Firstly, Seneca's advice tells us to accept tough times instead of running from them. When we meet a challenge, we shouldn't see it just as a problem, but as a chance to get better and learn. This means having a tough mindset that looks at hard times as a way to improve ourselves. Secondly, we should try to balance wanting to be rich with growing in goodness and wisdom. It's not about saying no to money completely, but making sure that getting things doesn't become more important than becoming a better person. Thirdly, Seneca tells us that being truly wealthy isn't just about having a lot of things. It's about having a rich life on the inside, full of goodness, wisdom, strength, and understanding yourself. So, the richest person isn't the one with the most stuff, but the one who has built a strong character and is at peace with themselves. Finally, Seneca's ideas help us better understand what happiness really is. It's not just about not having problems, it's about feeling fulfilled and growing even when things are tough. It's about fully living life with all its good and bad moments and finding happiness in learning more about ourselves. Seneca's view on wealth and happiness gives us a good alternative to today's common material-focused way of thinking. He suggests we should look for real-life treasures like wisdom, goodness, the ability to recover from setbacks, and knowing ourselves. Let's take Seneca's advice and aim for a life that has a good balance of material things and inner richness, a life that finds joy not by avoiding problems, but by handling them well with elegance, strength, and smarts. One important Stoic idea is to live in tune with nature, perfectly put by Seneca's words, "God is close to you, He is with you, He is inside you." To really get this, we need to understand how Stoicism views God and nature. In Stoicism, God is often the same as nature or the universe, the logical force that runs everything. So, Seneca's saying means that we all have a bit of the divine in us, the logic of the universe. Living in tune with nature means we match ourselves with this logic and the natural ways of the world. We need to realize that we, as part of nature, have the ability to think and reason. This ability to reason sets us apart as humans and lets us make sense of, understand, and fit into the world's natural ways. So, living in tune with nature means making wise choices, knowing right from wrong, and dealing with life's ups and downs. Also, Seneca's saying tells us to accept how the universe naturally works. Just like nature goes through cycles of being born, growing, fading, and ending, our lives also go through these stages. By accepting this, we learn to handle the changes in life, find peace in things not lasting forever, and value the here and now. Plus, being in harmony with nature involves seeing how we're connected to other people and the world. Like how different parts of nature live together in balance, we are part of a bigger community of people, animals, and the environment. Living according to nature means having good relationships, helping our community, and treating the environment kindly. Finally, Seneca's words remind us that we have something divine inside us, the true nature of who we are. When we make choices that match our logical nature and follow the main rules of the world, we respect this inner divinity, leading to a life filled with honesty, goodness, and inner calm. Overall, Seneca's ideas about living in sync with nature show us how to have a fulfilling life. They encourage us to use our ability to think, accept the natural flow of life, and realize how we're connected to everything. By trying to live following these ideas, we get closer to our real selves, leading to lives full of wisdom, virtue, and inner peace. In his work, Seneca often talked about the importance of self-control in living well. His famous quote, "It's not the person who has little, but the person who wants more, who is poor," really captures this thought. First, let's understand what Seneca means by craving more. He's talking about endless desires, like wanting too much money, power, or fun. When we don't have self-control and are never satisfied, we're always looking for the next thing to make us happy. To master self-discipline is to manage these desires. It means being happy with what we have, appreciating our current situation, and keeping our wants in check so they fit with our moral values and logical thinking. Being aware of why we want things helps us see if our desires are getting out of hand. Once we understand our wants, we need to think if they really make sense and match our values and life goals, or if they're just making us want more. We should do this review regularly, not just once. It's all about constantly examining our desires, deciding if they're realistic, and adjusting our actions accordingly. It's a process of ongoing self-examination and improvement. Finally, we should take steps to manage our cravings. This might involve setting boundaries for ourselves, building good habits, and asking for help when we need it. The aim is to lead a life guided by reason and goodness, not by endless wants. Seneca's thoughts on self-discipline remind us that real richness comes from wanting less, not from having more. It's about being happy with what we have and controlling our desires by being disciplined. Seneca and other Stoic thinkers often talked about death, seeing it as something natural and not to be afraid of. To get Seneca's view, we need to understand the Stoic idea of amor fati, which means loving your fate. Stoics believe we should accept and welcome all parts of life, even its end. They view death as natural as birth, something to be recognized, not feared. Seneca's idea is about accepting death as a release from life's struggles, not as something scary. This view comes not from being negative about life, but from knowing that life, including pain, is temporary and death is just the natural end. This way of seeing death changes how we approach life. It tells us to live each day knowing we won't be here forever, making our lives more purposeful and intense. Seneca's perspective encourages us not to fear death, seeing it not as a disaster, but as a normal, unavoidable part of life. By accepting death, we can live more freely and courageously. It also reminds us to cherish every moment we have and use it well. Seneca's lessons on death encourage us to think about our own end regularly. Doing this can help us handle life's challenges better, appreciate our lives more, and focus on what truly matters. It's about shifting our perspective to see death not as a final stop, but as a meaningful part of our journey. We should face life with an acceptance of death, not in fear, but with insight, not avoiding it, but being aware of it. This way, we can let go of our fear of dying and live a fuller, braver, and more meaningful life. Seneca's perspective on death challenges the usual view that sees death as our biggest enemy. Instead, it asks us to see death as a normal part of our life's path, a final break from life's struggles, and a return to the peace we had before we were born. His words bring us comfort and a fresh perspective. They show us that we can face the end of our lives with the same peaceful acceptance and understanding that we have towards life. Seneca said, "Lucilius, there are more things that scare us than things that actually harm us. We often suffer more in our thoughts than in real life." This is really relevant in today's unpredictable world. First, we need to understand that fear and worry are in our minds and not always about what's happening right now. When we're anxious, we're often thinking about what could happen or regretting past actions. These thoughts about the past and future are what make us scared and anxious. Seneca advises us to separate things we can control from things we can't. This is a big part of Stoic philosophy. Once we realize we can't control many things we worry about, like future events, we can start to let go of our worries and focus on things we can influence. Being mindful and focusing on the present moment can really help you. When we're fully in the now, we're connected to what's really happening, and we're less likely to worry about what could happen or regret what has already happened. Mindfulness helps us see things as they actually are, not as we're afraid they might be. Also, thinking logically can help us handle fear and worry. Seneca and other Stoics advise using reason to challenge our fears. Are they reasonable? Are they really likely to happen? Or are we just imagining them? When we question our fears, we often see they are based on unlikely things or exaggerated worries. Accepting our fears is important too. Acceptance means seeing our fears and worries without judging them and letting them be without letting them dictate our actions. It's about understanding that these feelings are normal but don't define who we are or what's really happening. Seneca's guidance is about using logic and staying in the present to deal with worries and fears. He says our worries usually come from thinking too much about the past or future, and we can overcome them by focusing on the now. Keeping this in mind, let's try to stay in the moment, think clearly, and accept things as they are as we go through life. These steps can help us move past fear and anxiety. Seneca once said, "We should go outside for walks to let our minds get stronger and refreshed by the open sky and fresh air." This idea of going on trips as a way to heal the mind might sound modern, but it's actually from old Stoic teachings. When Seneca suggested going for walks, what did he really mean? How can we use this advice today? Basically, Seneca's tip is to break out of our usual routines and places and open ourselves to new experiences, sights, and ways of thinking. He believed that traveling isn't just for fun or escape, it's for personal growth, thinking about ourselves and refreshing our minds. Seneca meant more than just moving from one place to another when he talked about traveling. He was also referring to the inner journey we experience when we step out of our usual settings. This kind of journey can bring us new insights and mental clarity. To put this into action, we can try changing our surroundings now and then. This could be as simple as a walk in the park, a hike in the forest, or a trip to a new city or country. These changes in scenery provide the clear sky and fresh air that Seneca mentions, helping our minds to grow, relax, and see things from new perspectives. It's not just about moving from one place to another. Being fully engaged during these journeys is key. This lets us really take in our surroundings and experiences, shaping our thoughts and ideas. Traveling like this also helps us discover ourselves. Encountering new people, places, or cultures often reveals parts of ourselves we don't see in everyday life. This self-reflection can make us more aware of who we are, helping us understand our values and beliefs better. In today's world where our minds are constantly bombarded with information, escaping to a new place can provide a much-needed break. This break can clear our minds, giving us a chance to think more creatively and clearly. Seneca's thoughts on traveling remind us that we need to take breaks from our everyday routines, both mentally and physically. He highlights that these getaways are good for our souls and minds and are something we should do. It's an invitation to step outside, not just to see new things, but to begin a journey within ourselves, leading to self-discovery, growth, and mental clarity. So, let's follow his advice and seek open skies and fresh air. Let's travel, not just as a means to move from place to place, but as a way to heal our inner selves, learn more about who we are, and make our minds sharper and more vigilant. By going through Seneca's letters in A Stoic, we've tapped into the deep knowledge of one of the greatest Stoic philosophers. We've explored 11 important lessons from his letters, each teaching us more about life, relationships, goodness, and understanding ourselves. We started our exploration learning how to deal with life's tough times, realizing that facing difficulties isn't just a setback, but a chance to learn about ourselves and grow. The lessons we've covered are not only useful, but also very practical, relating to everyday life situations. We learned about how time passes quickly and took Seneca's advice to focus on the present. This teaches us to appreciate the present moment, the time we can actually control. Then, we dug into the complexities of friendships and relationships, discovering that truly understanding and being understood is the core of a real connection. We explored Seneca's advice on how to have a peaceful mind and how to control anger. His view was that anger can make us feel powerless and stressed the need to manage our emotions. This is a key part of Seneca's moral teachings and a basic aspect of Stoicism. We also examined how facing challenges is important for our growth. We looked at Seneca's views on money and happiness, understanding that true wealth isn't about having a lot, but about wanting less. Then, we discussed living in line with nature, a main Stoic principle about understanding life's patterns. Moreover, we talked about the importance of self-discipline and controlling our desires, guided by Seneca's knowledge that being constantly in want actually makes us poorer. We also considered Seneca's thoughts on death, a topic that usually scares people, but we found his views bring a feeling of calm and acceptance. We examined our fears and worries, breaking them down with clear thinking and focusing on the present. Lastly, we thought about Seneca's take on travel, understanding that it's more than just moving from place to place. It's a journey for our inner selves that refreshes our minds and gives us new ways of seeing things. These teachings from Stoicism show us how to handle life's challenges, but we'll only benefit from these ideas if we use them every day. Learning about them is just the start. The real journey begins when we let these lessons guide our actions, choices, and ways of thinking. Let's try to bring the spirit of Stoicism into our everyday lives by practicing virtue, accepting things we can't control, and dealing with life's good and bad times with smarts and strength. The wisdom in Letters from a Stoic isn't just a set of rules, it's a guide that encourages us to see life through Stoicism, helping us live with purpose, peace, and deep understanding. Every day gives us opportunities to use these lessons, and by taking small steps every day, we really pay tribute to what Seneca taught and make our own lives better. Check the 2 videos on the screen that you may like. Until next time.